This video is going to show you how to take a 5-number summary and to use an online generator in order to compare 2 sets of data. In this case, my example actually has 4 sets of data. So I've got an experiment with an age and then a heart rate, and then a second experiment, number 2, with the people's age and their maximum heart rate. So when we go to do the box plots, what I would want to compare is I want to compare the age from experiment 1 to the age in experiment 2. And then I want to do a second comparative box plot, and I want to take the experiment 1 maximum heart rate and compare it to experiment 2's group's maximum heart rate. So I'll show you how to do that. So you're going to use the link that's been provided, and it's just an online generator. There's obviously other ones available. This is just the one I'm using here. And so just to go in and show you, when we click in it, so it's imathers.com. And so the big thing you need to make sure you do is when it says up the top number of box plots to graph, you're going to select 2, because we want to actually have the age from experiment 1 as well as the age from experiment 2. So they're going to be the 2 different boxes. So box plot title 1, we're going to say experiment 1. And then box plot title 2 will be experiment 2. And so then from there, what we have is we have to write in our minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and max. So I'm just going to flick back and forwards to the data set I've already got. So the minimum we had was 15, then 25, 35. So 15, 25, 35. All right, and then Q3 in the maximum. So Q3, 52, 71. So then for experiment 2, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to take the ages 5-number summary for experiment 2. So 20, 26, 35. 20, 26, 35, and just writing those in those cells, and then we need the last 2. So we have 49 and 82. So then from there you have your box plot limits, and this is quite important in order to be able to graph. So I can just show you if I don't do anything, it won't even allow. So enter an overall minimum. So you do need to put this information in. Now, overall minimum basically says, look, box plot 1, in my case, the minimum was 15 and the second one was 20. So overall, the minimum is 15. Now, we might want to go slightly less than that. We might just say it's minimum of 10. We might even just go 0, you know, maybe let's go 0, seeing as it's not far off. And then overall maximum. So again, my 2 maximums at this point are 71 and 82. So we just want to make sure that the larger of those, the 82, we go beyond that. So we might even say 100, just rounding it up nicely. And then the distance between tick marks, you may need to experiment with depending on the size of your data. So sometimes you might choose 5 and it's too crowded. So a 10 in this case would be a good amount. You might find if it's large data set, you might even need to go 50 or 100, whatever it may be. It just depends on how spread your actual data set is. Now the axis title, so what are we actually plotting? Well, it's the age. Okay, so the age, and we can say brackets, we'll always use our units in years. So don't want to pluralise that, so age in years. With the image size, I typically leave that. It should be fine. So display numbers on box plot, yes. And so that just tells you the 15, the 25 actually on there. I can show you what happens if we don't, but I'm just going to click draw here. So you can see the 15, 25, they're the numbers. If I don't select that and go draw here, you can see my box plot just doesn't have those numbers there. I don't think it hurts to have them. So click that option and draw here. And so there you have it. You have your age of experiment 1 versus experiment 2 on your parallel box plot, and you can see the age in years labelled on the axis, and you've got each of those labelled as experiment 1 and experiment 2, so we know which one is which. From there, if you want to screenshot that, what you should do, just do a screenshot. So holding down your button, I guess your on-off button and your home button at the same time, and you'll get your little screenshot there, and then you can go to your Word document and you can click paste. No, that may not have actually just screenshot. So insert. And there's our screenshot there. We can insert it like that. Now, you might want to then crop. So click, it'll automatically have the picture selected. So in picture, you go crop, and you're just going to crop it down to the actual box plot itself. You may even like to put the rest of it in your appendices, just to show that you actually have done how you used your online generator, just to show that. But there you go. So you've been able to crop your data and you have your box plot there. You then can go back and do the same again for your second set of data. So you go through again and do it this time for the for the maximum heart rate. So the numbers 105, 150, 170. Grab the last two. So from there, the other two were 190 and 200. And then for experiment 2, we'll go again. So grabbing the data, you've got 90, 145, 160. Last two, 180 and 205. And so this time, instead of the age in years, our data is our maximum heart rate. So we're just going to put that in there, maximum heart rate, and the units being beats per minute. And so again, we just need to adjust the Boxplot limits. So this time, our minimum between the two is 90 and 105. So we want to make sure we go less than 90. We might say 80. And then our maximum was 200 and 205. So we need to ensure that our value that we put in is larger than 205. So we might put something like 220. And again, we'll leave it at 10 for the moment, but we can always adjust it if it feels too crowded. So draw here. I'm going to see what that looks like. That's fine. I'll just show you what happens if you were to put something like 5. Draw here. See how it's just too crowded, so it doesn't look great. So in that case, the 10 looked pretty good. We could go 20 just to show you what that looks like. Okay. And so even that looks quite nice. So just whatever you think suitable, you can have a little play and see which one you like the most. Okay, so again, we're going to do a little screenshot and then go back to our document where we're pasting all our information. So insert, and we're choosing our picture, and it's our most recent one. So again, go crop, and we're just going to crop it down. And crop it up. And there we have it. So we can do a tidier crop than we've done there. Some of those are a little bit messy. They seem to be sitting on top of each other with it. So you just have to have a little play around with your formatting as well. So there you go. So when you look at your box plots, just to explain to you what you can see. So each little section, so each whisker and then each portion in your box will actually show you 25% of the data. So it's basically telling you for this first chart at the top with the maximum heart rate that a quarter of experiment one's people, the participants, had a maximum heart rate between 105 and 150, and another quarter had it between 150 and 170, another quarter from 170 to 190, and then actually another quarter from only 190 to 200. So in terms of the spread, Boxplots are great for talking about spread. There's actually a lot more spread down the lower end. Okay, so it might be that there is an outlier. Maybe that 105 is actually abnormal. But you can see in the top end, you actually have people more condensed. So more commonly, we'll actually have the heart rates in that sort of range without necessarily having it quite a large spread. You can use the box plot to compare the medians. So you can quite easily see that for the maximum heart rate, the median in experiment 1 is actually 10 beats per minute higher than in experiment 2, 170 versus 160. And you can also see that the experiment 2 has a much wider spread. They actually have a smaller minimum and a larger maximum. So that's something you may like to discuss. You also can see that the middle 50% for experiment 2 is actually less spread. So it is more typical. So that's your box. So it is sort of more centered around that 145 to 180, not as spread out as what you're seeing in, not much different, but slightly less spread out than what you're seeing in experiment 1. For their ages, you can see that they actually have the same median. They both have a median age of 35. There's not a whole lot in it. Slightly, experiment 2 have slightly older people overall. Their middle 50% is sort of slightly less spread out, and they have a greater spread in that top end quartile. So probably there's not really, they just sort of happen to have slightly older person, so slightly more spread, but not a great deal, because obviously experiment 1 was slightly spread down in the younger ages with the 15-year-old. So yeah, there's not a huge amount of difference there, but you can definitely see, considering that and considering they've got the same median, it's interesting to see that experiment 1 does have a median that is 10 beats per minute higher than experiment 2. So that's something you may like to analyse.